Well, welcome. It's the astrological coronavirus update from my heart to yours. I'm Dadhichi from astrology.com.au, and here's the chart that I was just looking at. I was just curious. It's interesting if you take a look at the top part of this chart and the conjunction of Saturn and Mars has just been perfected. That build-up of energy over this past week or two, as you've no doubt felt, has in a sense peaked. Obviously we're not seeing, we've still got a big lag there. The US is just coming online, if you want to put it that way, in terms of the casualties. It's unfortunately, I think, going to be astronomical. But fortunately, the Mars moving away from Saturn here. You notice I'm using the natural horoscope. I'm not talking about a specific person. I'm just talking about Kalapurusha, or the cosmic man from this chart. We can see what's happening here. The other notable twin conjunction here, we've got this Mars-Saturn, we've got the debilitated Jupiter and Pluto. So I wanted to talk about these today because what I'm sensing is an awful lot of fear, and it's understandable. We're hardwired to fear death, and when you see so much of it all around you, then of course you have to take the right precautions. It's the survival instinct, which, by the way, is interesting. I was just looking back over my New Year's message for 2020, the 2020 vision, as I called it, and I filmed that in December. And it's interesting, the whole theme of that, if you want to go back and have a look at it, had to do with survival, had to do with adaptability. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here as this beautiful cosmic flower unfolds, starts to blossom. As ugly as it is, it's beautiful in its innate nature, and that's what's hard to see. The second thing that's hard is to muster up courage in a circumstance like this. It's unprecedented. We haven't been in a situation which is like wartime lockdown. Yeah, some of you alive now will have parents who are also still alive and lived through the world wars. I know people who were in Auschwitz with the stamp on their wrists, their arms. They went through stuff probably a lot worse, but of the same fear level. How do we overcome fear? See, in this natural chart here that we're looking at, it's interesting to note that the third house is courage. Third house is also desire. Here you see not only is Jupiter, we call that the life force planet, debilitated. I'm going to get back to Jupiter, but Mercury, the planet of courage, is also debilitated here in the 12th house. The 12th house is an interesting house, and especially when we get a connection between these two directions of the zodiac. Third house, courage, debilitated in the 12th house. 12th house is all of those hidden things. They're all of our unconscious and subconscious fears coming. The 8th house also has a bit to do with that. So you're getting seasick there with me kicking the table around, sorry. The 8th house, which for the Kalapurusha, or the natural zodiac, is the natural 8th house of Scorpio. There it is, the death sign. Death and rebirth. Phoenix rising from the ashes. And the debilitation of Mercury shows that the fear is out the window. The courage, is out the window. That fear is overtaking everyone. Fear is very, very contagious. You only have to have a look at what's happened in the stock markets. Now, your money can't get coronavirus. Your property can't get coronavirus. It's human beings that get coronavirus. Why is this fear, and it's often part of the pattern of what happens in the stock market when there's a crash, generally it's a mass mentality. It's this emotion, this fear that overtakes everyone. And it's interesting when you look at astrology, that is why you can, in a sense, get a feeling for when markets are going to fall or rise, or when nations are going to be in turmoil or not, because that emotional, I guess it's a flame lighting a flame, an unlit candle being lit by a candle. That fear is very as contagious as the coronavirus. And so we have to be careful that we don't succumb to fear. We obviously have to be cautious. But when that third ruler, Mercury here in the natural chart, number one, it's debilitated. It's fearful. You notice that the 11th house is the house of friendships. It distances everyone from that friendship. Pisces is also a mute sign. Mute means incapable of, it's almost like being ossified by that fear. We are paralyzed in our action, in our thinking, in our capacity to reason. And furthermore, we have that planet here making a conjunction to Neptune, the ruler of this 12th house. So there's a very strong flavour of fear and loss through that fear, loss and fear of loss. But I think this has more to do with loss of courage. Or, I said I'd come back to it, this Jupiter here in the 10th house, it's a very important house. The pragmatic astrologers will say this is the most important house. It's the Karma Sthana, the house of karma. Look at all those planets there. Saturn and Mars have only just left. So we had all of those planets, those 4 planets, plus the descending node, the south node, Ketu, as the Hindus call it. They're in this 10th house, the karma planet. So no doubt there's been a lot of karma, but look at the debilitated Jupiter. Jupiter, which is considered Jove, the joyous one, the optimist. All the optimism is sucked out of it. It's like squeezing it out of that sponge. And how does that affect people? Well, right now, this has been happening all along, but for the moment I've drawn the chart, I see the moon, which is the masses, here being very much influenced by these planets here. There's another factor here that a lot of people have overlooked. It's a rare combination, and until yesterday, all the planets have been contained within one hemisphere of the zodiac. So there's a specific meaning. It's called Kalasarpa Yoga. And of course it has its karmic impact. Everything is being contained by the karma. The past karma and the coming karma. The allotted karmas that have to take place. So, often people talk about karma being, well, if you do that, you're going to get that. Whereas, in fact, I like to look at it as not as you sow, so shall you reap, but what we are reaping is what we've sowed. You've got to look at it in the reverse. You've got to do the inverse of that karmic equation, as I call it. And I think that's exactly what's happening now. I've talked to a lot of friends and they're saying, wow, everything's quieter and it's peaceful. And I've got to say, not that I'm minimizing what's happening worldwide. I can only deal with the immediacy of my domestic environment right now and my own being here. apart from the fact that pretty much martial law here. I mean, I can't even go out of my compound here in our subdivision. We've got guards at the gate with thermal guns, and then we have checkpoints going to the town of Lamry and another checkpoint going to the town of Tagato with army officers and police. So, and you need papers. I have all, Commandant. I have my papers. So I'm not allowed out. So I've got to deal with this. So I think what the chart is showing us is, and as I said in the 2020 vision Happy New Year's note, that adaptability. That's what we're working on. For the poor, actually, not having food is probably not that big a deal. They're accustomed to spending years and years on end, foraging for a handful of rice. In the West, we've been endowed with great fortune, really, to have what we need. And now, that contrast is greater when we don't have that. So we're all sort of moping around here and whinging about 5G and, I mean, what can I do here about 5G right now? All I can do here is try to give you a little more optimism about things and tell you to look within yourself and tell you that, the karma is here now. It is what it is. But what you can do in the immediacy of your own home is to get on with yourself, develop that relationship with yourself, and then develop relationship with your nearest and dearest and work on that. That's it. And you can either cry about it or you can, just get on with what you've got to do, get creative and connect with your inner self. And these planets, I was about to say, I digressed, are influencing the masses, the moon. It's a strengthening moon here. And as you see, this Kalasarpa yoga, this karmic axial yoga, has just now had the moon escape. It did that 30 days ago, or 28 days ago. As the moon is a fast-moving body, of course, and we've had this serpent combination for a while. Shortly, Venus will come out of that. And I've been observing some astrologers, listening to what my teacher said, having a look at the charts, and looking at another important point here. It's not going to show here because I'm using a Western chart, but in the Vedic system, the transit of Saturn, currently now in the star of the Sun, quite out far near the aphelion, is one of the causes, or it is resonant with what's going on here and would account for that. I said late last year, and I drew some maps of the December 26th solar eclipse, which had the penumbral shadow coming across the Asian continent. So we could see that there was going to be some problems in that region. And so the fear factor has now taken grip. It's interesting, well, we're hearing that the Asian thing is improving, but you've got to bring this under control. I'm thinking that will get better as soon as Mercury passes here in the next, let's have a look here, the next few days. Be 3 or 4 days it will pass over this. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion over the next few days. I think that we see the passing of Mars here. This is the ruler of the natural zodiac. It's important to release the frustrations. Just release blame. Just, you can't go blaming. Everyone's blaming. It is hard for the impoverished at the moment here, especially. They don't have any money, they don't have any work. And so look, you've just got to deal with the immediacy of your own life and make that the best that you can. Fortunately, now I gave you the bad news about Jupiter. There's a technical term here called cancellation of debilitation. And how I describe that is, even though the planet's debilitated, I liken it to the drug addict who's just saved by an inch of his life, found in the gutter on a heroin overdose, jailed, and then gets clean. And then actually goes on to save many, many hundreds of other drug addicts. So that by which a man falls, a man rises. So what I'll be saying to you people is, sure, there's good reason to feel down, there's good reason to feel fearful, but there's also good reason to use that and to just reconstitute it in whatever way you can. Redirect your attention, create something, connect with the one you love, reach out, ring me on the phone, send me a message if you have to. If you're pissed off, tell me you're pissed off and I'll listen. I might not agree, but we've got to reach out and be there for each other and try to turn what seems to be a really difficult thing into a positive thing. And I think with these planets, as harrowing as they look, there is the seed of greatness in that and the opportunity for all of us to turn that around. And you know what? Everything will pass. I'll see you soon. Don't forget, pop in at astrology.com.au. We've got a whole lot of stuff there, more articles I've written on the coronavirus. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.